Very cool. Fascinating stuff, Jolie. Thank you for that. So now we've heard from the Templars, we head back to Thoth the Atlantean, the creator of the Ascension program we are currently witnessing on the planet, with yet more wisdom to share that greatly complements that of the Templars.
Can you tell me more about the false grid? Before this Earth was part of the Ascension program, there were no physical pyramids, but there were natural pyramid geometries in the Earth's original grid. When Earth decided to ascend, she put out a call that she was ready for the Ascension program and that she would like to take part in the game. When Earth communicated, I was called, and I sent beings who came and placed pyramids on the surface to install a false grid. This grid ran on gold and was necessary for the Ascension process. The gold served as a conductor to activate the grid, but it also began the process of duality. The false grid was designed to dismantle and distort the Earth's original unity grid, introducing duality, which drives evolution and ascension. It wasn't malicious, but it was necessary to create the condition for growth. Dark entities were attracted to this grid, feeding off its energy, and becoming parasites to the planet. These entities still exist, but we are now clearing them up as part of the Ascension process. Why did the Knights Templar take and make monatomic gold? Is this connected at all? Yes, they harnessed the power of monatomic gold to activate the grid system within their own bodies, fully aware that gold is an extraordinary conductor of energy. The Templars were guardians, deeply involved in the Ascension process, though they've had to play dual roles. Their lineage traces back to the Essenes, who were connected to the wisdom of Jesus and Mary, a bloodline originating from the Pleiades. This lineage guarded powerful wisdom that isn't yet ready for humanity. Where is that wisdom now? It's hidden all over, stored in tablets and light codes. The information is waiting for the right time and the right people to access it. When the time comes, this wisdom will be crucial for activating the next stage of Ascension. What happens when it's activated? It will awaken humanity, and they will see that they are beings capable of doing great things. But it's vital that this knowledge doesn't fall into the wrong hands, as it could be misused. Some of these beings will play key roles in dismantling the remaining corruption and completing the Ascension process.
The idea of the false grid makes a lot of sense to me because one thing I've learned is that going back in time, I know the Earth was a very harmonious place. So this explains the how and the why this harmony and balance had to be disrupted by the creation of duality in the Earth's Ascension game. The false grid attracted the malevolent forces that still exist today, but as we have also heard before, they are now being cleaned up as the frequency on the planet continues to rise. Exciting times, and as we know, it is not our job to fight the old. Instead, it is for us to create the new. Our return to Avalon, our world of unspeakable beauty. My previous learning about the Earth's grid system was around the repair of the Unity Consciousness grid, which was led by Drumbelow Melchizedek, working with the indigenous cultures around the globe. And that in itself is a remarkable story, accessed through his books The Serpent of Light and the Mayan Ouroboros. Don't forget to put your cranial retention helmets on before reading, as they may just blow your mind, and it saves you having to clean up the mess. As for that monatomic gold, you can now buy it easily through Amazon, eBay and the likes, which begs the question, how does this compare to the real deal created in the time of the Templars? I believe it has to be significantly different, but if anyone knows, do drop us a line. Interesting that we too have a grid system within our own bodies, maybe a false grid and a unity consciousness grid, and you have to decide which to activate. It makes sense when we think about this from a holographic universe perspective, as above, so below, and all that. And the lineage of the Templars connects us back to the Essenes, who we know were linked to Jesus and Mary. See Dolores Cannon's book, Jesus and the Essenes. And this bloodline originated from the Pleiades. It's becoming increasingly clear how interlinked we are to our galactic cousins. And of the hidden information, I know that some are hidden on tablets buried in the walls of ancient castles in England. So when I do my April pilgrimage down to Glastonbury and beyond in April, I'll maybe take a chisel with me to see what I can find. Meanwhile, I know we truly are beings capable of great things, and this makes all this so exciting, despite the near-term distractions. Just stay in your joy, don't get caught up in the drama unless directly affected, and you can influence things positively. And if you cannot find your joy, find that place of neutrality while sat on your eagle's perch. Anyway, talking of galactic wisdom, we have Bashar next to help us with our own personal journeys by explaining our connection to our higher self.
Most of you are familiar with the idea that you have a physical consciousness, a personality as a physical being that you relate to as yourself, so to speak. But then there is this mysterious idea of the higher self. Simply put, most of you understand, or at least intuit, that the so-called higher self, well, is relatively non-physical. Even more simply put, you could say that there is a vibrational frequency just above physical reality, just beyond physical reality, in which resides what you might refer to as a template for physical reality, or upon which you construct your physical experience. It is in that template level, just beyond the physical threshold, that the higher self exists. Now, please do not confuse the idea of higher self with oversoul or spirit or what have you. Higher self is a specific idea that is like a version of the person you are in physical reality, but a version that has a broader perspective, a broader point of view. It's like having a twin standing on a mountaintop while one is also standing in the valley. And they can communicate with each other. And the higher self can say, I see you walking down the road, and I see that there is, well, a little bit of a ditch up ahead, so if you walk this way and walk that way, you'll avoid it. And the one in the valley going, oh, thank you very much. This is, very simply put, the relationship between the two. It is you with a higher perspective, a broader perspective, a bigger picture, without the complications that can arise from the personality construct's belief system. So the higher self is like a guiding principle, a governing principle, so to speak, that is a part of your complex as a person, but is the non-physical component that acts as the conduit to even higher versions of your soul, of your being, of your spirit, but also acts as the intermediary between those higher levels and the physical personality construct, and can distill information from the higher spirit and soul over soul levels in a way that your personality can understand. So the higher self functions like a translator, taking the information from the higher levels and bringing it down to earth in a way that can communicate to the personality effectively. However, because of some of the belief systems that exist within the personality structure on your planet, there has been confusion as to exactly how to form a clear communication line to the higher self. So let's make something very, very clear. This may sound a little bit surprising, but that's all right. Surprises are good. There are 3 levels here in this idea. It might surprise you to know, as personality constructs, as physical minds, you do not conceive of any ideas. What do I mean? The personality does not conceive of concepts. It perceives concepts. It does not conceive them. Here are the 3 levels. The higher self conceives. The physical brain receives. The personality mind perceives. That's all it does. Any idea, any inspiration, any imagination you have ever had doesn't come from the physical mind portion of you. It comes from the higher self portion of you, through the receiver, the brain, and is translated by the brain into a vibration that the physical mind then perceives as a reflected reality. One more time, because this is crucial to understand. You don't conceive of any ideas as a physical mind. That's not what the physical mind is designed to do. It cannot create ideas. It can only perceive the result of an idea from the higher self. Now, this may sound at first somewhat limiting, but in fact, it's very, very freeing, because you can all stop thinking. You can all stop thinking you're in charge. You can all stop thinking you have to think of everything. You can all stop thinking that you're the one guiding the ship. You're not. You are just looking at the road. You're just experiencing the path that you, the whole you, is creating.
And we're back. So, yeah, I love that. Bashar is just a fantastic source of wisdom. And the definition that he provided here, it just really made me take a step back and think really about that relationship to the higher self. And it makes so much sense that, you know, it's like the mountaintop view versus the twin in the valley. I get that. You know, we're here, we can only see our immediate surroundings. From up there, the higher self can understand everything that is going on around you, and therefore can direct you. So therefore, our job is to live in the now moment, looking at the road a few hundred yards ahead, but we don't have to kind of work out everything, right? This is a relationship that is redefined, and it's very well put. I remember, again, I've referenced this a few times, but we did a program which featured RJ Spinner back in May, I think it was, and he is the guy that was dreadfully ill, could have died, managed to bring himself back, but he kind of understood. He grew to understand what it was. You know, kind of you look at Joe Dispenza and the likes who had very, very bad accidents and had to recover from this dreadful state. And they kind of, in the recovery process, which I think is always a life plan, right? Because they learned so much they could pass on to other people. And he said that 97.5% of our wisdom resides effectively outside of ourself, within our higher self. 2.5% sits within the body. So when we try to control the outcome from our physicality, which is kind of what we're taught to do, right? That's how we're programmed and conditioned, because it keeps us small, right? Now we realize our totality is our higher self. We're kind of like the little, that we're the physical part on the ground down here, which has to be the slowest vibration to be physical. So when we connect and have this strong bond with our higher self, that is ourselves becoming total, right? That is when we're getting directed. Also, what came to mind is the interview I did with Susan Graw, who brought her book out back in July, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons. And when she had her near-death experience when she was only 4 years old, and she was told at the time, it was explained to her by the angels, we think we know where we want to go. They know where we want to go. So all we need to do is follow the path that is laid out in front of us. So this absolutely is in line with what Susan wrote in her book and what she told us on the interview as well. So that's well worth checking out if you want to go and have a look at that. So we're effectively driving our vehicle. The body, and this is an interesting point actually, because Linda and I had this exchange. Linda Carden, who wrote the book on Mind, Body, Spirit, because she always comes back and makes the point that the physical vessel is very important for this journey, and she's absolutely right. And the way that she puts it is absolutely right. So I don't mean to decry the fact that we are not our physical body. It's just the fact that we are non-physical consciousness that are firing up this beautiful 50 trillion cells of Team John Drew that's here, right? But it's not our job necessarily to kind of try and steer it all the way, because we've got a connection to that higher self that is really very important. So, I think that is, to me, it was a big learning point. So I really felt the need to share that. Jole, you're the expert on Elevated Planet when it comes to these spiritual connections and the likes.
I'm so honored. The some people think that, you connect with your higher self and it's like, but in sometimes through trauma and through going through rough things is how you begin to realize that you are in control. And the higher self is there like a spirit clock. When I was in clairvoyant school, it's sort of like it is there to pave the way for you. And that's one of the ways in which you can use it to take you to that higher timeline, is you work with it by saying, okay, this is what I want, higher self. First of all, one of the first steps is you call it back above you. It is your energy. You command it to be so. You say, it is commanded, my higher self, back above me at a comfortable distance above my crown, and you play with it. Bring your higher self 2 feet down, and you should feel some type of like something sitting up there, and you move it 10 feet up, and then you'll feel a lot of space, and then work with it 6 feet down. And so this is kind of in school, in clairvoyant school, this is what we learned to do, was to work with our higher self and put it at a certain distance to make it comfortable. We were also taught to tell it, program it, what it was that we wanted, so that it could pave the way. And then automatically our subconscious mind gets that message, and then boom, we take action in the body, or that 2% that John talked about. So there's many ways in which to really work with it. But first and foremost, you want to make sure that it is up above you, right? Because sometimes we don't work with our higher self. So our higher self, it goes off and it does its own thing. So call it back above your head so that it can help you make these decisions. There's another theory that the higher self is holographic, meaning that it is a projection. So when I began to work with my higher self, it was on the ground, on its knees, like head down, kind of in the fetal position. So I had to work with my higher self to even get it to stand at the power position. So that's why you'll always hear me say that, because when you give your higher self the power, you're calling all your energy back. You're taking responsibility, and you're now able to program those experiences and choices. So it's truly, once you open your eyes and realize you have that part of you, it's a tool you can begin to work with to manifest.
Mm. Yeah, it's so empowering, isn't it? When you kind of realize that our total self is
Mhm.
just, this is like a minor part of it, but this is the real fun part of the journey. We're the ones who go through this entire roller coaster of emotions in this emotional spiral, right? Everything from up there, everything to down there. This is the
Right.
fun part of the journey. Doesn't always feel fun when we're going through a lot of the density, but
Right.
I think the more that you kind of get the clue that this is really a game, that
Hmm.
it's all about ascension, it's about learning, it's about soul growth, but to actually get your entire team. So John Drew team is here, 50 trillion cells. There's me, there's my sacred place of my heart, which connects me to so many things, but I've also got my connection to my higher self. This is the
Hmm.
team, right? And the aura layer and the all these things that you've taught me, right? So, this idea of all the auric body, the energy body and everything like that. it's just beautiful because it is so empowering. It kind of helps us to step back into our power. We don't need to get angry about the things that are going outside of us because the answers are all within.
Yes. And really, just once we call our higher self back above us, the other advantage is we start remembering, right? Because another thing, like I said, is when you have your astral body, that's what goes out when you're sleeping and it gathers information for you. So when you say your prayers, right? You can say your prayers and then you can say, higher self, look, this is what I'm needing. I need for you to help me solve this problem. Astral body, please go out and get me the information that I need so that I can solve this problem. And then you begin to work with your chakras like, it's safe for me to solve this problem. I know how to solve this problem, right? I take action. It is within my control to solve this problem. I love myself to solve this problem. You see how you start to work? If you
Yeah.
work through that, you begin to transition to that higher timeline. Why? Because you're taking the necessary steps to lead you to self-love.
Yeah.
So this is what the clarity brings you. So the higher self, what does it do? Conceive. The mind, or no, not the mind. He said the physical brain receives. And
Mm.
then the personal, he said the personality social or something like that. I can't remember the words. I did have them. He said that is what perceives through that filter of the society you live in. So work with the source
Mm. Yes.
and listen to your own intuition and the things that resonate within you. If it doesn't feel right, I think there's something in the Torah that says, when in doubt, there is no doubt, right? So if it feels right, it is right.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Right. So, do you think we're ready to go to this last little section now? Okay. So
Yes.
basically, we are going to go to the meditation section. To lead us in there, we are going to go back to the Templar Knights, who have again some more profound wisdom to share before Jole then steps in to kind of follow up on that. And I do have my Templar Knight cross on because these are very, very protective, even in this day and age, apparently. The bottom pointing cross connects us to the earth, there's upwards to the heavens, and then from each side, infinity. And it's beautiful, right? Anyway, enough. Here we go.